Folks, listen up because things just got really heated over on The View. So, John Fetterman, yes, we're talking about the U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania, is suing the show's host, Sunny Hostin, and the producers. And you're probably thinking, whoa, what just happened? Well, let's dive right into it. Here's what's going on. During a recent episode of The View, Sunny Hostin made some, pretty controversial...
I am not the senator for just Democrats in Pennsylvania. I'm everyone's senator in Pennsylvania. And so it's just having a conversation with the president.
Controversial comments about Fetterman. Now, you know The View, right? It's known for its lively discussions, and sometimes things kind of get out of hand. It's not uncommon for the hosts to, sort of, push the envelope. But this time, it seems like Sunny might have crossed a line that Fetterman isn't willing to let slide. So, what did she say exactly? During this discussion, she, referred to Fetterman's visit to Mar-a-Lago. The whole Mar-a-Lago visit sparked
the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something.
You know, a lot of debate, mainly because Fetterman, a Democrat, went to meet with Donald Trump. You know, it's like visiting Trump's Florida estate isn't just like any other political meeting. It's more like setting up shop for controversy, right? People talked about it, of course, because he's the first Democratic senator to reportedly...
Netflix documentary series about New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He said he's heartbroken about friends and family cutting him off for his controversial political views and conspiracy theories. And a lot of Americans can relate to this, especially after this last election. So, do you think it happens everywhere?
What I recall about him is when he was asked about the COVID-19 pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, when people had lost loved ones, when people's family members were missing from their Thanksgiving table, like my table, he said, "I'm immunized." And as it turns out, he was not. He had done his own research. He has his Google MD like I do. And I think he said he was allergic to something in the vaccine, but he had COVID and he was in a huddle with his teammates. And I think people felt like, wow, you don't care. You're not your brother's keeper.
This could really, this could really turn me against
a morality.
Are you telling me?
Make that move. Anyway, Hostin's remarks seem to question Fetterman's motives, hinting that he's yucking it up with the enemy, if you get what I mean. This idea of cozying up to the other side has people on edge because, in today's political climate, things are, well, a bit, how do I put this, tense, right? The country's pretty divided, and any sign of cooperation with the opposing side is seen in all kinds of ways, sometimes positively, but often negatively. Fetterman's visit, to be fair, was aimed at trying to find some common ground. We all know how these things usually go. In politics, it used to be pretty normal for presidents and members of Congress to have, cross-party relationships to get stuff done. Ronald Reagan, for instance, famously worked with Tip O'Neill despite their differing party lines. Joe Biden, during his time as vice president, also worked with Republicans like Mitt Romney to push legislation. So, Fetterman's stance was kind of along those lines, aiming to better serve the American people by uniting on certain issues, even if it means meeting with someone on the other side of the aisle. But, it seems like Hostin interpreted it differently. And we have a problem here. In today's world, anything Trump-related is bound to stir the pot. Hostin's, commentary made Fetterman out to be, like, hanging with the wrong crowd, if you catch my drift. But get this, Fetterman's not just sitting back on this one. He feels those comments were not only inappropriate but potentially harmful to his reputation. Now, the lawsuit is based...
Since Trump's win, there's been a lot of soul-searching on the Democratic side, people needing answers on what went wrong. Do you think that is helpful, and do you think there should also be some soul-searching on the Republican side who need to analyze why they would nominate a convicted felon who ran on lies, threats of retribution, and concepts of a plan?
I haven't spent any of my time after the election freaking out or just thinking about. Here's where we are, And I would like to remind everybody that that's the way democracy works.
This isn't just about Fetterman feeling hurt.
Based on these principles. You know, in a time when tribalism in politics is at an all-time high, the ramifications of taking an action like this aren't small. It's a big deal, right? Fetterman argues that by twisting the narrative and making it seem like he's in cahoots with Trump for the wrong reasons, Hostin is undermining his credibility and efforts to make legitimate bipartisan progress. This isn't just about Fetterman feeling hurt. It's about, you know, maintaining a certain kind of decorum where facts are separated from divisive rhetoric. Hostin's comments, according to Fetterman's camp, were like throwing fuel on an already raging fire, which, to be fair, in today's media landscape is kind of risky. He's not just worried about his image but about the broader implications such commentary has on public discourse. It's, like he's drawing a line to prevent public perceptions from spiraling out of control based on half-truths or sensationalist angles. But here's the thing, despite all this chaos, Fetterman has shown a reputation for not being bogged down by party lines. He's known for standing his ground without total allegiance to his own party, which is kind of rare, right? Whether you like him or not, you have to admit that level of straightforwardness is, well, refreshing in its own way. Notably, Fetterman's consistent efforts in, say, hostage negotiations reflect his commitment to working with whoever can move the agenda forward for important causes. Like, right now, there is a prime example of how both parties are trying to pose a united front on important international matters, you know, where Fetterman's involved in efforts that align with both Joe Biden and Donald Trump to negotiate the release of hostages through bipartisan endeavors in critical...
About the J6 people, too, though, right? That's what they're going to say on the other side, that is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial, and now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful calling it, like, now he's a convicted felon and those things, and now for our party, we were talking about criminal justice, and we are now talking about second chances, and now all of a sudden now you're like, well, he's a convicted felon and all these things. And now clearly, again, both of those trials, the Hunter Biden one and the trial in New York for Trump, that was politically motivated, and those kinds of charges would have never been brought unless one side could realize that they could weaponize that.
There's this interesting angle where the lawsuit isn't just a fight between a senator and a TV host, but a wider commentary on how we discuss policy differences. To be honest, it's also a gut check on how media personalities navigate political commentary and its consequences. So, here's where it stands. Fetterman, while busy on serious diplomatic fronts, doesn't want to let this slip by, demonstrating the importance of keeping public dialogue in check. His legal action might serve as a warning that the narratives crafted on such platforms should align more closely with truth than sensationalism. We don't know how this lawsuit will turn out, right? It could reach a settlement or get drawn out. But since the issue taps into fundamental aspects of how media shapes political personas, it'll probably spark broader conversations. What do you think, folks, about how this speaks to the larger issue of political discourse in our media? Do you think Fetterman is right in taking this serious stand against what he perceives as harmful misrepresentation, or do you think it's all a bit overdramatized? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.